This is probably one of the best paced stories I've read.
So be it, Jedi.
What's going on, guys? Back in another video, another episode of Read It or Skip It. And today we're going to be talking about Shadows of the Empire by Steve Perry. So published in 1996, this sort of jump-started a big multimedia project with this book, a video game, even a toy line. So at the time, this was a big deal. Taking place in between episode 5 and episode 6, I'm going to give a brief overview of the story, and then later I'll break down some more specific details. So, because it takes place after The Empire Strikes Back, Han Solo is frozen in carbonite. So our hero's main goal is to get Han back. It's been some months after the events of Bespin and everything that happened there. Luke Skywalker is struggling with the realization that Vader may be his father. He doesn't know if Vader was lying, if it's true. He's struggling with the inner darkness. He can feel the temptation of the dark side. He knows to stay away from it, but he knows it's also so easy and so readily accessible to tap into it. So it's a very nice dynamic to see Luke Skywalker struggle with this turmoil he's feeling. Our main antagonist, I would say, is probably Prince Xizor, the leader of Black Sun, which is the largest crime syndicate in the galaxy. Our secondary antagonist would probably be Darth Vader and the Emperor himself. So as our heroes make their journey to try to track down Boba Fett, Lando Calrissian puts them in touch with his contact, who is Dash Rendar, who end up being a beloved character in the expanded universe. So they're trying to find Boba Fett, as he hasn't delivered Han to Jabba yet. So they end up tracking him down, but before they can get to him, they're stormed by Imperials. They got to book it out of there. Well, amidst searching for Boba Fett, they come to find out that somebody's trying to kill Luke Skywalker. Is it Vader? That's their number one suspect. But as you'll find out, everything isn't as it seems. So Prince Xizor is trying to kill Luke Skywalker because he knows Luke is Vader's son, and his beef with Vader stems from the fact that years ago, this Imperial science project went wrong, and ultimately Vader ended up wiping out Xizor's entire family. All proof of that was destroyed. Vader doesn't know about it. Nobody knows about it because it's all covered up. So Leia, trying to figure out who's trying to kill Luke, contacts Black Sun and ends up meeting with Xizor, only to find out that he was the one responsible. Xizor is a Falleen, which is like a reptilian species, and they have this pheromone that produces this attractant to women. So he's always had these women coming after him. He tries it on Leia, almost successfully, but she learns about it and is able to resist. So Leia gets captured by Xizor. Luke Skywalker and the others break into Xizor's castle on Coruscant and try to get her free. Well, things go awry and they end up having to blow the whole thing up to get him out. Xizor is tracking him down. Vader tells him to stop because this whole time Vader's going back and forth with the Emperor, as you know, Xizor's a problem, he's a threat, because I mean Xizor is vying for power. He wants Vader's spot, you know, right-hand man to the Emperor. And the Emperor's just brushing it off, he's not listening to Vader. Well, finally Vader tells him, leave him alone, stop trying to go after Luke Skywalker. Xizor doesn't listen. He escapes to his skyhook on Coruscant. They start targeting the Falcon. Vader orders him to stand down. He doesn't listen. Boom, end of story. Vader destroys the skyhook. Our heroes get away. The story ends with Luke about to send 3PO and R2-D2 in a Jabba's palace. This is probably one of the best paced EU stories I've read. It reads like a movie. It doesn't let off the gas. I mean, it's boom, 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 continuing the plot. Super entertaining. I listened to this on audiobook form, but I decided, hey, I'm out of books. I actually ended up picking this up at a flea market for a whopping $1. So why not pick this up and read it, you know, with my eyes. All in all, really good story. Super important to the EU. I would say it's a really good jumping off point. I think any stories that take place in between the original trilogy is a good place to pick up and start reading. Just because, I mean, it's going to be cohesive to the films, right? And if you've seen the films, it makes it that much easier to consume. Now I'm going to get into some more specific details about the story, some things that I really enjoyed because it kind of shone light on certain situations or aspects, or just delved into the situation better. We see Luke Skywalker building his lightsaber in Obi-Wan Kenobi's cave, or house, whatever you want to call it. And that's super cool because it shows him having to use a furnace to cook the crystal, and using the schematics that Obi-Wan left for him. And I really think that's a good touch to, the overall Star Wars universe. And of course, that was a deleted scene in Return of the Jedi that we never got. It talks about Vader and his feelings towards Luke and how he's prideful that Luke was able to stand up against him, and if he wasn't, he wouldn't have been worth his time. Vader is in his meditation chamber and he's trying to heal himself. He's trying to use the Force to breathe on his own. And he's successful to some extent, but once he starts to realize, this makes me happy, I'm happy because of this, he kind of fades from the dark side and he stops being able to breathe. So he's trying to focus on breathing on his own, but yet focusing on his anger to, sustain himself. Super cool. I really like that. You don't see a whole lot of Vader sort of humanized in the older EU books. He's just this big bad guy, but I really appreciate it. It was really nice. Vader is training against these super sophisticated training droids, and he's just bodying them, and is talking about how when Luke hit him in the shoulder when they were dueling on Bespin, it hurt obviously, and he's like, yeah, I think my shoulder is starting to feel a little better. It was just really cool. We see Luke Skywalker growing with the Force and starting to, trust in it more and grow as a Jedi, which, is branches the gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, because by Return of the Jedi, he's a full-fledged Jedi Knight. It was just really nice to see a little bit more extra here and there. C-3PO and R2-D2, of course, are always pretty much comic relief. And in one scene when they're trying to rescue Luke and the others from Shizor's castle, Luke tells them to fly the Falcon. And it's just this funny scene where they're constantly going back and forth and the ship's, flying crazy through the atmosphere, and you think they're gonna wreck, and they end up getting there in time. But it's just a really good example of comic relief using, obviously, the characters that were sort of made for it. Yeah, all in all, super good story. Obviously, the verdict is read it. This is, I would say, a staple point in the EU. It's pretty renowned for being as good as it is. As I said, I listened to it, but I think reading is the ultimate way of consuming a book. I know that some people can't read or don't like to read or would rather listen to it, and that's all fine and dandy. I'm not saying that you're faulted because of that, because sometimes you just don't have time to read, physically. But I would say even listening to a book and then, a year or two later, reading it with your eyes, it kind of just makes it that much better. Yeah, guys, that's been this episode of Read It or Skip It. Got to show my love to the book readers out there, because when Star Wars ain't doing so good on the screen, you can always escape in the novels. And that's why I love reading for the most part. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, check out more videos, and we'll see you on the next one.